There you go. Yay.
All right, everybody, what's going on? It's your boy, Tommy Knowles, along with
Carlos the Tailor.
And Isaiah the Illustrated.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. We're back again. It's been a long time, but we're here to give you all some more good medicine. Guys, what has been going on? Let's start with you, D. Give us an update on what's been happening in the life of Isaiah the Illustrator.
Well, a lot's been happening in a short window of time. So, oh man, it had to be 2 months ago since we talked about dating and Christian life and online and all that. And I know I'm on record on our podcast saying
swearing off online dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how life works.
I hear repentance coming on.
You can call it repentance, that's a better word. I would have said re-nigga.
Yeah, something about that word feels funny.
It does, it really does.
He nigged again.
I did.
So pray tell, Mr. Armstrong, how did I renege once again? Or I think that's like a double name.
Yeah,
you renege again.
How did I repent?
Yeah, how did you repent? Or what are you repenting for?
Well, funny enough, after our conversation, and I got a lot of insightful thoughts from you and your personal testimony. Right after that, I spoke with some of my other homeboys about dating and online dating. So that few days after that, like dating was just on my mind, online dating. I'm like, you know what? It's been like a whole year since I've been in the game, whatever. And you know, I was like, you know what? In 2018, that is where people are at.
Right,
that's just the truth, you know. And it's a digital age. And looks at Carlos. But anyway, so I was like, you know what? This doesn't have to. The Lord can work out whatever He wants to any way available.
Right.
You know, He can make good come out of bad.
This is true. Yeah, so, this is true. All things work together.
All things work together. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this one more try. I was on there for about a month on Match.com, and toward the end of the subscription, it's kind of funny how it happened. I was on my phone, except I wasn't using the app one night, but I was trying to set the distance to 500 miles away from where I was. So, you know, I was trying to see if I could find anybody in Dallas or Atlanta or something like that. But unbeknownst to me, my thumb accidentally moved it to 1,000 miles.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
But before I realized that, a profile caught my eye. And, you know, she was dope. She had, like, talked about she listened to Common. She said The Light was one of her favorite songs. And I remember, like, man, yeah, she got good taste in music. And then she's talking about how her life is so involved in spreading the kingdom of God, or like moving it along in the earth. So right. I was like, hey, you know, I'm like, won't he will. Won't he will.
Won't he will. That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
And of course, on top of all that, and many other things, she looked good. So,
but you know, hey, I don't care what nobody say, but looks definitely help.
They matter
when you're trying to match. Okay. Good looks matter. Make that a hashtag.
They do. So I was like, at first I saw she lived in Maryland. At first my brain is like, is that within 500 miles of Madison, Mississippi? It was too late for me to care, but I just knew I had to say something to her because I thought her profile was just awesome. Like, it was off the chain, man. So I wasn't even trying to holler or nothing. I was just like, hey, you seem like a really dope person. I just felt like telling you that. And, you know, she felt the same way about mine. And,
okay.
And then she was not intending to pursue anything, but, you know, the conversation just kept going. And recently, I guess 2 weeks ago, we met in Atlanta for the first time and went on a series of dates over 4 days or whatever. She even met my grandma, and, you know, we are now in a relationship.
Congratulations, man. Cue the violin.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's awesome, man. Well, you know, like you already said, man, the Lord, all things work together for good for those who love God and are the called according to His purpose, man. So apparently,
that's what the Bible says.
Yeah, that's what the Bible says. So apparently, there was a reason for your thumb to slip. And there was a reason for you to look back into the online dating scene at least one more time. Let me get this one more shot. And so, man, I pray grace, peace, and blessings unto both of you all, man. And I hope that this goes in the direction that the Lord wants it to go, man. So big ups to you. Something else I noticed, just kind of cruising my artistic friends' Instagrams and Facebook pages during the month of October. Talk to us about Inktober. That's what I want to know about. Like, what is Inktober about? Tell the masses. Oh yeah, by the way, Carlos is in the room. Carlos is in the room. So talk to us about Inktober. What's that about, guys?
Inktober is something that was started by an illustrator I follow on Instagram. His name is Jake Parker. He's made a few books, one being called Little Bot Sparrow, I think. Very well illustrated. I've been following him for a few years now. And I think he started it about 3 or 4 years ago. It's just, Inktober is just something that artists on Instagram, or I guess any social media platform, participate in. It's where you have to draw something, illustrate something with ink, like physical ink, like traditionally. And, it's just, like he would say, it's just something that gets people into practice, gets people to sharpen their skills and have fun with it. And I've been participating in it since, I guess, for the past 3 years.
Okay.
So,
cool,
yeah, it's really fun.
I saw some of your pictures, man, with the pumpkin head, like robot and Black Ranger. And man, it's cool, man.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Appreciate it, man.
Los, you participate in Inktober at all, or
Ink? No.
I
ink not.
You ink not.
Well, it's not too late, man. Like I told my friend.
It is.
No.
It is because I'm in school, so there will be no ink.
Not this October.
Now, 2020, when I graduate, I'll ink all over the place.
You gonna ink it
but
up?
until then,
we
I ain't inking about it.
Well,
you're not there. Don't even ink about it.
Yeah. We definitely don't want you inking all over.
No, we don't.
No. There's not enough washing powder in the world. All right. Well, for me, man, I actually got an opportunity to participate in one of the most amazing worship experiences that I ever had the pleasure of participating in. Shout out to Sophia and Robert Mack. Yeah. Robert with the vision to just create a atmosphere for what we affectionately call the Christ Encounter. And where he basically got a bunch of praise and worship leaders from all over the area to come together under one roof and just sing songs unto the Lord. And may I say that it was absolutely amazing. I actually just really recovered getting my voice back probably a couple of days or so ago, man, because when I say we gave it all to Christ, man, it was absolutely amazing. And so if anybody has not seen it or heard about it, or you would like to, you can go to www.woministries.org, and under the streaming page, there's a link to the Christ Encounter. You can go, and the whole thing is on YouTube. You can watch it from front to back. So just make sure you don't have anything else to do, and that you got your shouting shoes on, man. Because it was just an amazing experience. And so shout out to the Max, man, for just being obedient and allowing us to participate in it.
Y'all were very harmonious.
Hey, sir. It was amazing, man. I think a couple of us left our feet a few times during the whole experience. It was crazy. So, and shout out to Rhonda Chambers, man. Nobody like you, Lord. Woo. Yeah, I think everybody still has a heavenly hangover from that whole experience, man. But, yeah.
That song alone just... Man, boy.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah. So, all right. So, Carlos, what have you been up to, sir? We already know that we have a major lineup in store for everybody listening. So, we want to give Carlos an opportunity to get anything out.
Okay,
but not everything.
Yeah, we don't want you inking all over the place.
Right. Yeah, I'm just gonna give you this one piece, and then we'll go into the topics.
Okay.
I have a problem with going to a store and seeing somebody walk in the exit door. When I was a kid, we would stop. My mom would stop. We walked into the front of the door. We stopped. And she said, "Now, which one?" And that did something to me, you know. So yesterday, I go to a store, the Mart of Walls.
Yes. Okay.
And so I saw this lady who was very corporately dressed. So, you know, she seemed intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like she was intelligent.
Right.
So, not being creepy, I walked just in enough pace to see what she was going to do. And she walked into the door of the Mart of Walls and she stopped. I said, shoot, she's going to make the right choice. I know she's going to. And I'm on the side of a car looking like.
Not being a creep.
Yeah, not being a creep. But like, she going to do it. And I'm happy for her now because she going to make the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
She walked in the exit door, man. And my countenance dropped. Don't talk about the countenance drop in the Bible. Yeah. Like, you know, who is that king whose countenance dropped?
It was a bunch of them in there.
Yeah, no. Yeah, just, you know, so that's all been going with me. I'm just trying to get over people.
We've had that conversation before.
Yeah, we have.
About, I don't care.
I know.
As long as I can get in and get out the store. But okay, so here's my thing. I understand why stores who are open 24 hours have locks on their doors. Like, I get that because there are some times during the year where the store has to close. And when the store closes, you need to be able to secure it. But for those stores that are open 24 hours, I don't see the purpose of them having
an enter
and exit. Like, it doesn't, nobody abides by those rules anyway.
But it's there.
Except Carlos.
It's there. Okay, that's a good point, but it's there. It's there.
So just because it's there, you have to
do what it says. It's there. They put money into the signs. Do what it says. Do what it says. It's so easy. Read ENTRANCE. Oh, I go in that door. Not EXIT.
So are we going to apply that premise to every situation?
We should.
Are you sure? Because, you know, I can go some places with this.
Speed limit.
That I have you to say, you know what, I'm not doing that.
Do you always go to speed limit or underneath it?
So, like, if you saw a scantily clad female with a sign on her that says "Enter,"
wait a minute,
are you gonna do what it says?
First of all, she don't go to my church.
So this is a yes or no question. This is a yes or no question. If you're driving down a bridge and there's a sign on the side of the bridge that says "Jump," are we doing that?
She's at the Mart of Walls.
But that's
there are a lot of scantily clad women that walk across the Mart of Walls.
I will not.
I'm just.
What's the first topic?
Hey, but before we get into the first topic, I gave you an opportunity to recant. I asked you, should we apply that principle to every situation? And you were like, we should. No, Carlos.
Tommy, no, we gonna fix this now. Tommy, you are not gonna drive by a bridge that says jump. Okay, you will not. It will not happen. And nobody's gonna be scantily clad with a sign that says entrance. It should be applied.
That's the sign enough.
That's what I'm saying.
For some.
I am right.
I've been living on this earth for a long time, Carl. I've seen some things.
I'm right like 3 turns.
Not every situation does not require enter and exit signs. It just doesn't.
If there's a sign you should follow, God gives us signs. We should follow.
Enter and exit are not the signs that you attain.
To side with Carlos for a second, it does provide a sense of traffic flow that even though most people don't abide by.
So you mean to tell me that even the smallest of people know how not to bump into each other? That's all I'm saying. As big as the doors are at the Mart of Walls, when people, because I've done it, you walk in the exit door and somebody's coming out the exit, I know how not to run into that person. Just like when I walk through the entrance door and people are walking out of the entrance door, I know how not to run into it.
Like you sitting there
Because they're breaking the law.
They're breaking, yes.
The last time I checked, I've been made free from the law.
Breaking the statutes.
You can do that. You can do that.
You gonna do
I'm just saying.
Yeah, you saying all right.
Super Saiyan.
Super Saiyan.
Man, so we're going to follow up that conversation with probably the most polarizing, other than Christ, right now, the most polarizing person in the news.
Oh, gosh.
Let's talk about Kanye.
Okay, let me unbutton my shirt.
Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent right now. Okay, I am of the guild, if you will, that has not really given him much attention. So I have not been following up specifically with what the entire story is for Kanye West. So what he's talking about and things like that, because for me, it's just difficult for me to move past the presentation. I have some other words that I want to use. One that rhymes with buffoonery. Let's just, but just to move past the presentation of how he's presenting himself, it's hard for me to get past that to actually hear the message. But what did pique my thought was that there have been some conversations on social media where people have actually been saying, regardless of the method that he's been using, some of the stuff that he's actually been putting out there is really good stuff. Mm-hmm. But the media will make it out to seem like, or to discredit what he's saying because of all the antics that come along with it. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you guys, before we get into the main meat of why we're bringing this up, like what are your thoughts about this whole situation with Mr. West?
I think I'll weigh in with Kanye has been questionable ever since he on live television said George Bush hates black people.
Or don't care about.
Yeah. Okay. So it might be true. But it was such an inopportune time to do it when he did it. Mm-hmm. They were trying to raise money for Hurricane
Katrina. Yep. Remember that.
That was so out of place. That was not the time to do that.
I just remember the horror on Mike Myers' face.
Yeah, I know.
They're with him.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Wow. Yeah. Right. So what makes me feel like it's hard to give myself to stuff he says is because there's always a degree of pageantry in what he says. And I think even if what he says is true and is credible, the way the pageantry that's attached to it just I tune out. I can't even take it for what it might be because the pageantry is tied to it. It's like the preacher. Like when I was a kid, I didn't like going to church because I used to feel like I go to school every day and I hate homework. So I get my Saturday to have fun, but on Sunday I go to church to get fussed at.
Like you feel like the pastor was fussing at you?
That's all I felt. But now I'm an adult. It's different. I know because I have an authentic relationship with Christ now. I know. Mm-hmm. But as a kid, I thought, you know what? Now the preacher that we were the church we were involved with when I was
back
a kid.
then,
yeah, he was fussing us. Mm-hmm. He was. It was that fire and brimstone stuff. It was. So I'm like, so even if he said anything that was good, I couldn't accept it because the fire and brimstone. Mm-hmm. I couldn't because my mind already equated to that. So even if he had came to me and said, Carlos, you're going to go to heaven because these things, because of what he said to me, because of how he said everything before that, I couldn't hear that. Mm-hmm. So that's how I apply this whole thing with Kanye. I really want to as I consider myself intellectual. That's me considering myself. Now that depends on who I'm sitting next to.
Right.
All right. But as somebody who thinks I think well, it's hard for me to. I make efforts to take his stuff and put it on a scale to where it has some value. I try to do that. I literally try to take his words and put them and take them. Even sometimes I have to take them out of context just to see. But I've not yet been able to do that with success. That's just me. You know?
I would challenge myself actually to go back because it's almost like this personal filter that I have to where I shut my attention down, my brain down towards him because of the antics.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And it's like I don't give him the time of day to place or put any information in me. And I do that not just with him, but with a lot of people. Like if your antics are not lining up with the way that I view life or the way that I live my life or how I choose to think, then a lot of times I will just smile and nod at you. You know what I'm saying? And what you're saying is literally going over me. Like I choose not to let that affect me. But it makes me think because of all the attention that he's getting and the outrage in many circles that he's causing for this modicum of people to come up and be like, you know what, hey, they really duping y'all with this person because the stuff that he's saying actually makes sense, but they're going to fix it to where you don't trust him because they want you to pay attention to all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? And when you think about it, he's always done questionable things or inappropriate things or made a spectacle out of certain things. But back then, it used to be for what we felt like was the betterment of black folk. You see what I'm saying? Whereas how it's coming off now is the exact opposite. You see what I'm saying? And so now, me personally, I try not to get caught up in the black versus white thing. You know, that whole thing. But I just feel like it's just someone ain't right with it, and because something ain't right with it, man, I can't allow myself to become subjective to that. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, over the years, I've always talked to a few of my close friends or relatives about him, and I've always been critical of Kanye. I mean, of course, like most people, I appreciate his music. Or at least I did up till 808s and Heartbreak. He kind of lost me after that. But I've always been like sort of critical of him, despite appreciating some of his music. But I'm like that way now. I'm just like, he's just like, what's surprising? Like the other day, my homeboy, he was like, "What do you think about Kanye losing his mind?" I mean, like, I was like, he lost his mind a long time ago, didn't he? Like he literally says he was literally talking about that in his music, in old music, like how he's basically crazy right now, or in the past, of course he, with the losing his mom, and breaking his jaw, having an accident, all the stuff he's been through, whatever, and I'm like, okay, like to me, from my perspective, it's like he's just like any other celebrity. It's like he don't pay my bills. He ain't. I don't listen to him for guidance or nothing. I'm like, why start now? But the fact that he is such, like, what he's doing, in my opinion of him now, as far as like, his antics and the messages he's trying to portray, like I do give him the credit. As far as him, that's something I guess I've always liked about him. He's not like the normal celebrity, even though I liken him or treat him like most celebrities. I always say he's like the normal because he is always saying stuff that's out of at a bad timing or always shaking somebody's tree or whatever. And I mean, I don't know. It's like I have heard some of the things he said. I haven't listened to everything he said. I've heard some, and like I can understand what he's trying to say at this point. It's almost to me like he is trying to actually do what's best for everybody to a degree, even though obviously it's not
coming off that way.
He's doing a terrible job with the method, if you ask me. Right. Well, see, and I think many people in the beginning were kind of thinking like I was, like they always, and I think about the halo effect in this whole situation, because if anybody's familiar with the halo effect, it's basically advertisers use it all the time when they endorse people. That's why when I remember when Tiger Woods had the Gatorade endorsement, the Buick endorsement, and all those different type of things. Because at the time, Tiger was like this larger than life. I mean, he really still is, but back then he was really like this huge athlete success. And so
role model.
Yeah, and so what people do, what the marketing people do is they have these people to endorse their product because most people are like, well, if Tiger was doing it, then I need to have it or I'll buy it. And so when he had his fall from grace, if you want to call it that, then these endorsements were immediately snatched. You feel what I'm saying? Because they know that, well, people will start to, they'll kind of have the same backlash that Nike had from the few people that had the issue when they made Colin Kaepernick the face of the Nike campaign. And so it's crazy because when you have him out there and he's doing these things, because the black community, if we want to call it that, majority of them do not approve of the antics that go along with it. It muffles the message, right? And so that's why it was so curious to me when, a few people that I know that are extremely just pro-black, pro-black community, when they started to talk about the fact that the message that he has is really a good message, you just can't hear it because of the antics. It made me wonder, like, is there something to it? And am I, as a person, able to look past the foolishness? Because my thing is, people can make themselves look silly just to get your attention.
Exactly.
But then once they get your attention, now they're putting things out there to say, this is what we're trying to do to create more jobs, to better this, to create more security and safety. And so it makes me ask a question. I think this is like one of the ethical paradigm questions we've always sought to ask since, we've taken the philosophy class. Does the end justify the means?
So when you put it that way, I know I said like earlier, he's doing a terrible job with it. I guess a better word to say that is he hasn't done it the way people would expect him to, or people hope he would do it.
Or think that he should. I think he should approach this a different way.
It's just like, obviously he is not catering to people's sensibilities or feelings in a sense.
And I think more of that, it has less to do about him and more to do about the president.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? And because of how they feel about Trump. And the fact that he has been endorsing him, for lack of a better term, then people have a negative view of him. You see what I'm saying? It's like guilty by association. And because of your association, but what it seems like now, if you look at it from just a different perspective, is that he's using what's in control at this current time and trying to associate himself with that to make positive change. And so my thing is, I don't think it's necessarily clear what his end is. And if people understood what his end, would that justify his means for them? Like, is it enough? Because a lot of people basically feel like he's
Jim's Crow.
Or he's Tom's uncle.
Right, exactly.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, is it okay to sell out? For one to sell out for the benefit of everybody else?
And now I'll make this correlation, and I'm sure it's probably a stretch, but I feel like
I already know where you're going.
You might. You might. I feel like there were people back in the civil rights era who felt that way about Martin Luther King to a degree. Just in the fact of maybe if they were more attuned to Malcolm X's campaign, and they saw what Martin Luther King was doing as not enough. Granted, they look at Kanye like he's going backwards, like in the opposite direction. But like you said, when you hear some of his things he says, it's not crazy.
No, it's not.
It's not. Like, it's just the hat he wears and the face he's putting on, the dance he does.
It discredits it for most people. It's like, I can't take you seriously because of that foolishness.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
But I think, like, in the times we're in now, the fact that Donald Trump is the president right now, it probably takes such a ridiculous antic to even.
I think people are still recovering from the fact that he won 2-3 years ago. Like people were in genuine shock. That it actually happened. But if you go and look at history and the pundits and stuff like that, they say that during those times, it's like our nation always takes a major step backwards, or at least that's the perception that people have.
Yeah.
And so in these types of situations, and so it's unfortunate. If we take it to a spiritual level, I think that there's so many things that's happening behind what we can see with our eyes that are trying. It's almost like they're fighting tooth and nail to create this division. And as long as we're not uniting as a Christian people under one God, as long as there's something, and race is one of the most polarizing things in this world, and it's been that way for
ever since they came up with race.
Yeah, ever since race was established. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so until we can figure out as a people a way to overcome that division, because quite honestly, man, there are a lot of people out there that don't want, they don't want to overcome that. Like, I'm fine with just being with my people.
Yeah.
My tribe.
I'm fine with my tribe. I don't want anything to do with anybody that does not look like me. And if we're going to achieve the goal of being one church, we as Christians have to understand that there are some people that are a part of this church that don't have the same hue as I do. You see what I'm saying?
Some people don't even want that.
That's hard.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard, man. When I know just on a general basis that every time I step out of my house, I could possibly be a target for somebody because of something that I cannot control. I had nothing to do with the way that I look or my gender, for that matter, when I came out of the womb. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's major, man. Do the ends justify the means?
I hope that because we're talking about this, that we don't lose people like No Big Deal did.
Oh yeah,
yeah. When his concert got shut down
because he said something about Trump.
Yeah, but like you said, it was not negative at all.
No, it was just.
But I wondered though, because I've heard two lyrics about it. Like another song I just heard recently, he said, President just dishonored the motherland. He didn't say his name, but he said President just, and I was like, whoa, like. Yeah. I can see some backlash from that one, but not from the one they did the backlash for.
Yeah, well, I think it's just the fact that he's black and he said something about Trump that was not flattering, rather he wasn't endorsing Trump.
Exactly.
So. But I'm gonna tell you, since this conversation is going some different ways, but I guess it should. I can say that I feel like when I'm in a room with my light skinned cousins.
The wonderful people.
Yeah. And I can feel the tension if Trump's name comes up. I can feel the tension. Like, because I'm that one in the room.
Right.
Like, how does he feel about that? I never say anything.
Yeah.
But I can feel the tension. Like, when his inauguration speech, I was in a meeting and they put on screen. So we stopped the meeting for it. And, but after it was over, we went back with the meeting, but after it was over, inside me, I could feel like this tension in the air that, okay, like knowing, because the people I was with know who I am. They know I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say anything even if I felt bad about that. I wouldn't say anything. But I could feel like this almost unease, like So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys experienced that. Like,
of course,
Well, probably not so much as me, because most of my interactions now, as far as like where I work and where I go to church, and the people I hang around outside of my job are not. Like, I have not run into anybody who endorses President Trump like that. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I run into people all the time who respect his position as president, but that's a little different than endorsing him as a person. And so, but it's just, my thing is that I pay attention. I sit back and I watch through social media and just through all these different media outlets and stuff like that, how different people respond. And I think probably for the most part, the question that I'm left with in every situation, everything that he's done, everything that he's doing now, even things that Kanye is doing, is like, I don't understand what the end game is. You understand what I'm saying? And because I can't see the end game, it makes everything that's being done seem erratic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm old enough and wise enough to understand that, especially in that position, that there are no erratic moves. Like, now there might be moves that you cannot see.
Yeah.
But I know that everything is happening for a reason. If we're gonna be real about it, we can go back to Obama's administration. There were a lot of things that were approved under his administration that, as a Christian, I don't agree with. You feel what I'm saying? And so, but a lot of people were able to go along with his administration and things that he accomplished because of how he did it.
Exactly.
How he carried himself as a president, especially as a president of color. You know, that just won a lot of people over. And so it almost comes down to, like, now you got this government gang war between the Democrats and Republicans. That now that the Democrats have been out of office, you got the Republicans coming in, we're gonna scrub the Democrats out. Like, everything has to come out now, and that's what people perceive it as. But you know, you just think about it. Like, I've heard people talk about the tax breaks that are now available under Trump's new tax law that actually benefit a lot of the small businesses. But people can't see that, or they're not going to listen to that because of the man. Because of the man. You understand what I'm saying? And so, I guess the end or the purpose of this conversation is for people to kind of take the blinders off and truly and really do your research. You know, that's no different than, you know, us preaching the gospel, really. Because people have preconceived notions about the Bible and about Christ and about God and about what we believe. And it would be no different than us saying, well, you know, don't take my word for it. Go back and research it and study it for yourself. You see what I'm saying? And so that's all I'm saying. You know, you know, take the blinders off.
Take them off.
And see everything.
See and make your own decision.
Comes with all the bad.
You know, it's actually caused me as an adult to pay more attention to politics. You know, when you growing up and you're young as a teenager and college student and stuff, man. Oh my God, you just did not pay attention to that kind of stuff. But now I see myself becoming my parents. You know, like, well, I have to pay attention to this platform because I'm trying to see what this person is really talking about, and how much credit do we give to the person as a person versus what the person is campaigning for? Because that person, they might be a misogynistic rapist behind the scenes, but the platform that they're campaigning for is for the benefit of the masses. Whereas you have somebody that's actually a good person, but the platform they have doesn't fit your agenda. So how do you reconcile those two things? That's the thing that gets me.
Is it even possible to reconcile that? You know, that's my thing. Is it even possible? I think whether or not it's possible depends on who you are. Just, you know.
Yeah, because that's tough to divide the person from what they say. It's like, if I see you doing something, but you're saying something different. It's like, how can I trust anything you say?
Which I think is the conundrum with President Trump and Kanye West. Because he might be saying some good things, but I'm looking at what you're doing. Like,
exactly. That's what somebody mentioned. It's like they said in politics, talk is cheap. You know, it's all about the policies and what you actually doing, rather than what you're talking about. You know,
how you actually voting. Go back and look at the voting records that some of your legislature have done in your own community.
Exactly. And
you can see like what their stance is on stuff like education and all that kind of stuff, man. It's wild. You got to pay attention. Let's jump into something a little lighter. Carlos, you told us that you have a Taylorism. So I always give this disclaimer to our listeners. If you're not familiar with what a Taylorism is, this is when Carlos takes something that has happened in his life, and there's a message in there somewhere. So with that being said, listener discretion is advised. Mr. Taylor.
You know, the weight of the crown is heavy. Okay. This is a potential debate. But before I debate this, let's go ahead and declare me the winner before we start.
Wait a minute.
Okay. It'll be easier. If we do this, it'll be easier.
I feel like
declare me the winner now. It'll be easier.
That's not how debates work.
Right. The emperor has on his new clothes.
Okay. I was joking aside, but different kind of joking. Okay.
I feel like that's a blasphemous statement.
What?
Like all joking aside, like all joking.
Different kind of joking.
We're going to transition to a different kind of joking.
Okay, well don't say all then.
Yeah.
Just say
joking.
Some joking aside. There you go.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, I find it hard for a grown man. A grown man who drives.
Why you do this?
Who raises kids. Who's employed.
So are these the conditions?
Yes.
So if you meet these conditions.
Yes. I find it hard for these type of people to eat nuggets.
Clarify. When you say nuggets. No, you say define a nugget.
Chicken nuggets. Okay. First of all, a nugget is a piece of chicken. There's no bone. Like, okay, so first of all, it's an insult for me to go a place and they say, I say I want chicken wings. They say, bone in or bone out.
They can't see your facial expression.
He's scowling.
He looks extremely concerned.
Bone in or bone out? Like, what is that even? What is that even? Like, as a man with a job and a house and children to eat bone out nuggets. First of all, let's start right here. Let me start right here. Okay. First of all, if you're a man eating nuggets, you're already in error. You have allowed yourself to become emasculated to a point where they tell you that these are bone out wings. Bone out wing is really a nugget. And you know it.
Are you done?
No, I'm not done. It's a nugget. And you allow yourself to be you take your man, you put your man in a box and say, here, take it away from me. If you sit down to a box of nuggets, when you go to a restaurant, okay, it's a point. Go to a restaurant, the child's menu. What's a prominent thing on the child's menu? The nuggets. You will not see nuggets on the adult menu. They're not for adults. What's wrong with people?
Needless to say, you don't eat boneless wings.
I don't eat nuggets.
So, essentially what you're saying is that there's no such thing as a boneless wing.
No, it's not.
Boneless wings are grown man nuggets.
They are grown man nuggets. And you should feel bad as a grown man eating a nugget.
Even grown man nuggets?
Even grown man nuggets are wrong. Men.
Okay. Let me. Okay. Go ahead.
I just want to ask him a question. A simple question. Carlos.
Don't look at me. That's the question. Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
I can't look at you asking a question.
No. Don't even look at me. Just ask the question.
Okay. Carlos the Taylor. You telling me you never eat chicken that does not have bones?
No, I do not.
So
nor should I.
In any shape or form.
So based on your description, do chicken tenders qualify as chicken nuggets?
That's worse.
No, we are not doing this. We are not.
Let me tell you why.
Not doing this.
Let me tell you why.
Chicken tenders are awesome.
No, let me tell you why it's wrong. Let me tell you why it's wrong. How do you feel as a man saying the word tender? How does that feel? You cannot feel like a man saying tender.
The
word is not a male word. tender. It's not a male word.
Carlos, listen.
You put your manhood in a box and hand it over.
Carlos.
So, okay. All right, so here we go.
Nuggets and tenders.
Let's go. Let's put some meat on this bone.
That's where it should be. There shouldn't be nowhere else.
Do you eat pork tenderloin?
Pork tender, no.
Do you eat Chick-fil-A sandwiches?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And what is that?
And what is that, sir?
A giant chicken tender.
No, a giant chicken nugget. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First of all, chicken tenders are made from chicken tenderloins, which is the most succulent, juicy part of the chicken. If you are a chicken connoisseur like myself, then you will appreciate juicy,
boneless,
tender cuts of chicken.
I don't eat those sandwiches anymore.
As of right now,
I know. I've been chicken. I've been chicken sandwich free for a year now.
Let me tell y'all something.
When I got a revelation that it should not be eaten though.
What's wrong with a chicken sandwich?
I got a revelation.
Are you saying that men should not eat chicken sandwiches?
I'm saying
unless the chicken got a bone in it. Right. So they take a fried chicken breast and put it between two pieces of bread. That's okay for a man to eat.
I'm saying in circuit, the sandwich and the chicken should never collide. The chicken is separate issue.
Why don't we just talk about how there could be a chicken burger as long as it's in patty form?
We just talked about this.
But we didn't talk about. We didn't discuss it in the sense of manhood. We wouldn't talk about that.
Oh, we didn't establish it was acceptable?
We weren't talking about that. No, that was not the topic.
Well, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I'm getting from this. So you telling me that in order for you to be a man, you have to eat bone-in meat. So what about all the vegans out there?
I didn't say it.
I didn't. I didn't make the rules.
Carlos. First of all, let me say this. I think I've said first of all like 5 times. So let me just say this. Let me just say this. Okay, I have a 2-year-old son. I order him chicken nuggets quite often. Let me finish. Okay, there are instances when I've purchased these chicken nuggets with the last amount of cash I have in my wallet. Okay. Mm. He might not eat all the nuggets. Now let me tell you something. I work hard for my money. Okay. And if he doesn't eat all his nuggets,
some things ain't going to waste.
I calmly ask him, "Are you finished with your nuggets?" Excuse me, I didn't say that. "Are you finished with your nuggets?" And he will tell me, "Yes, I'm done." And then, because I don't want my money to go to waste, and because I like chicken, I will devour those nuggets.
Proceed to smash.
And barbecue sauce. And chase it with the best flavored diet drink of my choice. And I'm all man, sir.
Let me tell you something.
All man.
Okay. No, I got another question. No. Do you eat chicken salad?
No, I don't eat chicken salad.
Do you eat salad?
I eat salad, yes. There's no chicken in salad.
Do you eat pasta with chicken in it?
I have.
With your bones in
the bones in that chicken? Of course not. He still secretly eats Chick-fil-A sandwiches.
Of course he does.
No, okay. Let
with waffle fries. With the Coke on the side.
Listen. Okay, to the scenario with the kid and the nuggets and not finishing. I got it from my mom. So my mom would buy potato chips, or when she bought cereal, and like there's only like when you get the bottom of potato chips, it's just crumbs, right? They're not many whole chips anymore. We want the whole chips more than the crumbs. So I would go for the whole chips, and I leave the rest behind because I didn't want the crumbs. My mom would take that bag of crumbs, open up a new bag of potato chips, and put the crumbs in that bag. You gonna eat my money?
You gonna eat my money?
I feel that.
So okay, listen.
I
So
feel that.
if you're not finished with nuggets now, that's breakfast. You gonna eat those nuggets. You gonna eat those nuggets. You gonna eat those nuggets.
Not you though.
Not me. It's on man. You gonna eat those nuggets tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. You eat those nuggets are yours. You gonna eat them nuggets.
I want to be the fly on the wall when Carlos is stuck between the decision of finding something else to eat or eating some leftover nuggets. He might choose not to eat the nuggets, but I want to be there to see the struggle.
The struggle.
Because there's going to be a struggle when you got chicken nuggets sitting on the counter versus you going in to fix something else.
There will not be nuggets on my
I'm going to stand up for every man out there who enjoys, first of all, the king of burgers has 10 nuggets for $1.
$1.
Come on, man. 10 nuggets for $1? I'm a grown man. If I can get 20 nuggets for $2 and be full, I'm eating some nuggets.
And if you a man that works and you work hard for that money,
and I got kids, and I got a house, and I got a job, and I'm gonna eat mine. In fact, when I leave here, on my way home, I'm stopping by Burger King, and I'm gonna get me some nuggets. I'm gonna take a picture of me eating my nuggets, and I'm gonna post them on the Good Medicine page.
Oh man.
Because there's nothing wrong. Now, I'll admit, when I want chicken wings, then I want bone-in traditional wings. They can be dry or wet, with sauce on them or whatnot. And when I want that, that's what I want. But I'm not going to turn my head away from strips
I won't work that hard if I don't have to.
nuggets.
You know what? See, I see what you're doing. So you're continuing the Kanye discussion by being Kanye. Right?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
He's the one me and Kanye
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll take that. I'm going to give me a hat. Okay. And you know what my hat is going to say? Make nuggets great again. Make nuggets great again.
Nuggets great again.
Nuggets are awesome. I don't care what you say.
They never stop being great.
I know a lot of guys out there who are vegan. They're some of the best men that I know. And before they went vegan, I can guarantee you they ate nuggets.
Ladies and gentlemen, they call this good medicine because I bring it. My colleagues are sick. I bring the medicine, people. I bring the medicine. I am the IV in this whole operation right now. You have to know that. That's all I'm saying.
Let us establish a poll for this, hopefully.
We will. It's going to go down later.
There's a poll stuck in your logic right now.
I had an interesting thought. I'm switching topics on you now. Okay. Had an interesting thought. Heard something listening to a podcast, because I listen to a lot of podcasts. Interesting idea, and I wanted to get you guys' take on it. All right. You made mention of an assignment that you gave your students about, subvertising?
Yes.
Right? Explain to the audience what subvertising is, and then I'm going to ask my question.
Subvertising is it's a device that advertisers use to demystify something that's been sold to you as something that's really awesome. For example, the best example of subvertising is the campaign that's going on right now that's calling cigarette companies big tobacco, and like the commercial where you see the guy who's outside smoking in the dark, and the delivery guy comes up and gives him a box with the
bad teeth in it. Yeah.
That's subvertising.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we talked about how you gave that as an assignment to your students and how that's a very difficult assignment. And it made me think about this. I heard somebody say that innovation comes out of constraint. Like the idea of constraint or having limits placed on you is actually the birthplace of creativity. So what's your thoughts on that? Innovation coming out of or being birthed out of constraint.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that came to my mind, just because it's been on my mind of late, which of course has been in the cultural atmosphere, I think, is thinking back to, Black people and their history in America and how, we often take note of how creative Black America is and how many innovations we have, even to the degree where, the majority seems to follow things we do or say, even if it's like something like a dance or whatever, But I think about the innovations or the creativity or all the great things that came from being in bondage to where it's like you being constrained, or like you said, what was the word you used?
Innovations?
No, constraint.
Constraint, being constrained. I think the human mind, just the more it is bottled down or bogged down by something, or I don't know. It's just like, the poem about the bird in the cage, often dreaming of flying, in open spaces, and it's all that. And it's like that when you're constrained, I think your mind is constantly on being beyond what is constraining you. And thus, where innovation and ideas come from, I guess.
Yeah.
This is almost a jump back, but not so much. Speaking of constraint, that kind of thing, and how innovation can come out of the constraint. When I first heard Kanye's "Through the Wire," he spit that whole song, with a wire jaw.
Yeah.
And that song was fire.
Yes.
And that got me, like, that song, because that song, to me, was an underdog anthem. And when I heard that for the first time, I said, this dude got me, because that song, that was like, in a situation where he shouldn't have been able to do that. He did it with that constraint.
Right.
Well, I'm actually thinking that it was, the play on it was Through the Wire.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Through the Wire. Actually saying Through the Wire of his
based
jaw.
on the Shaka Khan song "Through the Fire."
Yes.
So, but when I heard it, it made me think about something much more kind of based, if you will. What we affectionately call African American ingenuity. Or nigga rigging. You know what I'm saying? Or rigging to be PC. But the fact that because of lack or not having what you need, you would innovatively put something together that would get the job done right there that you need to get done. And it's almost become like a cultural way of life. And it's what I'm thinking about it is like almost from an entrepreneurial aspect of how can I make my own position or job better? Like where I am working, I'd be more effective. And a lot of times the effectiveness comes out of the constraints that are placed on what it is that you have to do. And so because you have so few resources, so few materials to work with, but you still have to get this project done, you become innovative in how you use what you have to still create something that's on par with other people who have the same stuff or even more than what you have. And I think that's where it comes from. And so the guy who I was listening to, I can't call his name, but he was basically saying that you have some companies who do really well and they'll end up losing or they're going out of business because they've lost the ability to become innovative, to create new things. So it's just kind of like they stick with what they have and keep reproducing the same thing over and over. Whereas you have some companies who are very successful, but they keep being successful because they mastered the art of placing artificial constraints on themselves. Whether that constraint might be, even though we have all these materials, this is all that you can use in order to create something new. Or you can use everything, but instead of you having a full month to get it done, you got 1 week.
Right.
Using time as a constraint. And that really pushes people's creativity to the limit to do that. So I say that, I brought that up to say this, and this is kind of like my ministry minute. But for people who are listening, don't be swayed by your circumstances right now, but use them as a springboard into something greater.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So when things around you are not going the way that you expect them to do, that is the perfect circumstance for innovation.
Yeah.
The perfect circumstance for creativity to be able to go forth and create something new that nobody else expected, that you can be, that can be your own. I think about the fact that Scripture says that your gift will make room for you. And so in order for room to need to be made, there has to be a level of constraint.
Yes.
Because there has to be something constricting you in order for you to even feel like, I need to make room.
Yes. Right.
You feel what I'm saying? And so I'm just sharing that with everybody, man. Take that to heart. Let your gift make room for you. Yeah.
I got two examples. One is one Carlos mentioned earlier about, how in his musical career, he would not use profanity.
Yeah.
Because that would lead to more creative wordplay and lines and rapping, became a better rapper for it.
Yeah.
And with me, personally, like in my artwork, I'm seeking to do more original artwork as opposed to fan art.
Yeah.
Because for one, doing fan art is technically illegal.
Yeah.
And, I try to live in the side of, live a blameless life, if you will.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But on the other hand, too, not doing fan art so much causes you to come up with things.
Mm-hmm.
It forces the innovation, because you placed a constraint on yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I can't use this, and this, but I still want to produce art. So now I got to come up with something that's, strictly unique.
That's the reason why I gave the assignment.
Yeah.
The reason why I gave the assignment is because I want to put the constraints on them, because the conventions of a designer, even a designer in training, is I can advertise something I can advertise something with no restraint. Like, okay, I can say, I want to sell this mouse. I'm going to create ads that promote the mouse.
Mm-hmm.
But how can I create something that's that presents the mouse in a bad light? Because the mouse has been upheld so much.
Mm-hmm.
So it forces them to a vein where they have to go, okay, how can I take this concept apart?
Yeah.
I can't go as it is. I got to take it apart.
Yep.
That's very uncomfortable. But discomfort leads to, like you say, it's growth.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to grow them by putting them in a very, very uncomfortable place.
Situation.
Yeah, that's it.
Kind of makes me think about like those infomercials, like when they're trying to sell you this contraption they've created, so they make normal life seem extremely terrible.
Yes.
Like trying to crack the egg and it just falls apart in your hand and all that kind of stuff, and then they unveil this new fix-it-all thing when in reality it's like a one-shop tool that this is the only thing that it does. But they've used that in a way to try to help subvertise, if you will, their product by making you feel like, hey, by not having this thing in my life,
you're struggling.
My quality of life is much lower than it would be if I had it.
It's subterfuge.
I do believe, fellas, that this is it. So until next time, we're gonna use our social media names.
Yeah.
This is Deep Thought 9 with
Isaiah the Illustrated
and
Carlos the No Nugget Taylor.
Oh my gosh.
and this has been another episode of Good Medicine. Peace. Shout out to all strips.
Nuggets for life.